Hi everyone, welcome to MercuryPay's first ever live stream. We are joined today by Rish, our co-founder, and Karen Puah from the Fintech Association of Malaysia. Hi Karen, it's lovely having you here today.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity.
I thought, we should just have a bit of a casual talk because you guys are really our first and one of our most important partners for this Beyond Payments 2022 event that we are hosting next year. And I thought one of the best things to do was probably get your take on where you felt um, fintech is in Malaysia right now for consumers, and where it's going in the next 2 to 3 years. Um, so yeah, let's kick it off.
Yep, cool.
So I mean, as a consumer, Karen, you know, how do you personally feel about fintech? Like, what do you use it a lot in your daily life? What kind of fintech verticals do you use? We're just interested to know.
Okay, so again, thank you for having me here. And then happy to be the first one to be on the live show. Okay, so as a consumer, I think with COVID and everyone working from home, stay at home and all that, I find to equate fintech with health, right? Because of the cashless payment, it safeguard a lot of people. Cash, as in the physical fiat dollar, is dirty, but not in the well. I don't mind having a lot of it, even though it's dirty. But because of the changes, from hand to hand, and we don't know where these hands been to and all that. So cashless payment has been a lifesaver, I would say. And then the other thing that I see that relates to health, and that is innovative solutions coming out from the fintech companies is insurtech, right? Having the ability to renew your insurance from your phone is very important, very convenient. And then I think the collaborative and contributive factors coming from the government saying that, if you are not able to renew your insurance or renew your driving license, for example, even road tax, please do it online. And then anything that you're doing online for your life now has got to do or end with some kind of paperwork, right? Any business ends with paperwork. But in this case, it's fintech, right? You need to have the payment gateway. You need to have the payment connectivity between parties. And then the other one that comes up to my head is, of course, the ability to invest from your phone with the robo advisory. It used to be like you need to have a few millions in your bank before you can even think or consider investing. But now they're all in your apps. With the eKYC, or for those who are not aware, is the electronic know your customer. I think when you sign up for, let's say, your e-wallet, you will see the provider asking you to look up, look down, turn left, turn right. Those kind of things are called eKYC. So basically, what they're trying to capture is the biometrics. And I think, yeah, these are the top three that I use regularly.
Do you think that you mentioned COVID, Karen? Do you think that COVID was kind of a bit of a kick up the backside for a lot of people, and they realized that they need to jump on this fintech curve, if you like? And on the back of that, do you think Malaysia itself was quite well placed to do that? We've seen a lot of countries like the Hong Kongs, the Singapores, the Koreas of the world pretty seamless in their adoption of fintech solutions, cashless payment solutions. Malaysia seems a bit kind of haphazard in some parts. So what's your view on that?
I would say that the government try their best. A lot of the government agencies, for example, like the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation, MDEC, the team that was leading this digitalization project middle of last year was very proactive. What they did was they rally all the industry players, like the payment gateway of the e-wallet, and then the digital marketing, things that they know will be able to help the SMEs, or even like new Instagram, new Instagram merchants or sellers to help assimilate them into the payments rails, right? So at the height of the pandemic last year, there was a little bit of gap where the cases went down and then people were allowed to come out, you know. We saw a viral photo of the long queue outside a pawn shop. And then the assumption was that, oh, because of the lockdown, people don't have money, they need to pawn their gold stuff to get money. But in actual fact, it was because that particular pawn shop is not digitalized, right? So if you give in your gold to get some money back in return, you will be given a cert. And then the period on the cert says, let's say 3 months, you have to go back to that particular shop and renew if you don't want to redeem your gold stuff back. That is the missing part. People can't do things online. So like you say, Rish, it is a kick on the backside and say, you know, do it. If you don't innovate, you will perish. Yeah. So in a way, what could have been done in 5 years was done in 1 year.
Yeah,
I
I think that's it. You're going, Joe.
Sorry, Rish. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, look, I think that's a great example. I mean, the pawn shop example illustrates complete gap in that process, which we're now trying to aggressively fill, right? How much do you think that that's a government responsibility, or, you know, associations like, you know, Fintech Association of Malaysia or companies like MercuryPay have a role in educating the people to jump on that bandwagon to help bring that process much more narrow?
Yeah, so I don't think it is a responsibility of one stakeholder. It is a collaborative work. And you can also see like a lot of corporate companies now don't see themselves as just one revenue generating entity. They need to see themselves as a community player. So even in that sense, I'm talking about having the empathy and creating campaigns to help the staff to work from home. Yeah, so that is one way to look at it, right? And then from the government's perspective, they do try very hard to see how they can step in and help. But like all projects in the world, the key is to the execution. And if there's too many parties in the process of the execution, things get misconstrued and, you know, messages don't go out. So from someone who comes from the communication background, you know, we always say that, you know, over communication won't kill anyone, but if you don't communicate enough, that's when things don't happen.
No, quite right. I think so too. So, you know, you mentioned payments and insurtech and investments as you know, three of the fintech verticals that you personally commonly use, right? So, where do you think consumer focus is in Malaysia in terms of fintech adoption? Like, you know, are consumers more focused on payments? Is payments really the number one thing that they're using, or have they started to branch out? Have you seen consumers start to branch out and start to use, you know, other fintech verticals like insurance, like investments, um, even deposits in savings, right? But via fintech products and solutions, like is that a move towards mainstream sort of consumer awareness about these things yet?
Okay, I'm happy that you said mainstream and consumer adoption in that sense, because what I felt that the adoption rate is high, no doubt, but the adoption rate is only high in the urban area, because Malaysia, and as you know that if you follow the speech and then the messaging that comes out from the central bank, fintech is supposed to solve the gap or be the connectivity, and the key word that they always use is financial inclusivity, right? And if you also observe, they always use words like B40. So just for everyone's information, B40 means the bottom 40 percentile of the population in Malaysia when it comes to income. Okay. Okay, so remember the government gave up the first round 30 ringgit through to all adults via the e-wallet. And then the second round, they did it again with 50 ringgit. The claim rate is very high in the urban area. But when you go out to the rural area, you will see either two things, whether number one, they might not have the smartphone. Number two, there are no merchants to claim from, right? So for Malaysia, one thing is about the infrastructure, and number two is the last mile connectivity. It is still a little bit lacking in that sense. And then when you talk about the increase in the adoption rate, I'm quite happy to see my own like cousins and my uncles and aunties asking me how to, you know, set up their e-wallet. So there is a very high increase from the senior citizen. So that is a good thing, right? And then of course the migrant workers, and which all of us can see from our first-hand experience, whether it's our domestic helpers or our own staff, right? How they are able to send money with their own handphone, with the digital remittances, right? And then like my helper is from the Philippines. She uses World Remit. They just launched in Malaysia officially yesterday. This is not a plugin, but it is something that I don't work for World Remit. I remember the days when I will go to the bank and then use Western Union and the forms that you have to fill in, right? And then when the digital remittance came, it was good. I used a few, and then they were like, okay, 1 or 2 days settlement in that sense. But World Remit settlement is less than 2 minutes from here to Philippines. Yeah, and that is amazing. Okay, I mean, it came with a sad story when it comes to my domestic helper, because her village, they send 30% of the villagers from her village to the community center, because the 30% are the one not affected. Most of the places are the other way around, right? When you get affected, you go to the community center. But theirs is the other way, because there's just so many of them that were affected. And then her ability to send money within minutes, it helped them so much, right? Yeah. So those are the kind of adoption rate that I would love to see it, you know, growing even more. Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, in terms of fintech availability, right? Fintech products and service availability in Malaysia, and its sort of accessibility for end users, for consumers. Where do you see that going in the next 3 years? Like, how exponential do you feel that growth would be, and how um, how do you feel that growth would be specifically for rural consumers?
I would think that there's so many components in this, Joel, because, you know, like I mentioned about the infrastructure, there is also the availability of the hardware for the users themselves. And then also, you don't forget the education journey that they have to go through. And then it being fintech, and then it being whether is it trustworthy, is my money secure, you know, that's another round of education program and awareness, right? I don't know, what do you think? 3 years, is 3 years too long?
um, I don't know. I don't know, Rish. You know, like 3 years, I think would be a good amount of time to, you know, go through, you know, like basically build all those pillars that you mentioned, right, Karen? I think we'll get to a point where uh, that starts to exponentially grow, you know. But I think we're only going to reach that sort of mainstream accessibility for rural consumers within that 3 year period.
Yeah.
I
So
think,
the sorry,
sorry,
Rish, go ahead.
just to chip in, I think the keyword that I love that you used was education, because that sometimes gets really lost in translation. Like, people assume you have the product, you have the vertical, you have the infrastructure, bang, that's it, job done.
Yeah.
But actually, the education, especially in the rural communities, is so kind of sometimes out of sync or just not even present. And one of the things Joel and I always talk about, especially when we were kind of setting up MercuryPay, was this idea that word fintech is often really mislabeled, right? It's people now, or people have done in the past, said, well, fintech equals payments. And you've just given numerous examples where we've shown that it's so much more than payments, right? It's convenience, it's insurance, health, well, et cetera, et cetera. And I think government associations like yours, what we're doing at MercuryPay, will go a long way to actually educating and enforcing a sense of actually overall helping communities and helping people. So I think that's going to be the first part. Whether it's achievable within 3 years, I think a lot. I would rather governments and associations, like you said, work in tandem, work in parallel with each other. Think tanks, these type of organizations come about and start pushing ideas out, as opposed to trying to keep something very linear and kind of government focused.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think when it comes to education again, right, we always assume that everybody reads and understands English. You just look at the apps that we have, that most of them are in English. So that is the first thing. That is the first thing that we need to look into when you create new apps, and actually look at who are your audience, right? And the second thing is that because fintech in itself is so digital, the assumption is if I put in more money in FB ads, I will reach more audiences, right? So let me bring you back to, like, for example, Rish, just now before the recording started, we were talking about Hong Kong. First thing you see is the glitzy buildings in the Hong Kong Island, and especially when you're in the boat, crossing the Causeway Bay, you see buildings with HSBC very big on top of the building, right? So we grew up looking at tall buildings with bank logo, and we know that means trust, right? So now with fintech companies going out, and MercuryPay building is nowhere in sight, right? Which I'm sure Joel will do that one day, right? And then you taking the penthouse office, and then you see, if you have a building with MercuryPay logo glowing at night, half the battle is won, because that means trust, right? What it means to me is that the more digital you are in your business, the more offline you need to get. Then you will get the totality of your audience. So simple things like bus wrap and billboards and all that, right? And then the third thing I would like to mention would be education. Is that we always, so as a manager, when you plan a campaign, you plan that, okay, phase one is I want to educate people about what is MercuryPay. Phase two is I'm going to teach them how to use it. And then phase three is then they will download and use it, right? We think that everyone will get on the bus when you did the phase one, but there's a lot of people that are going to miss the phase one bus. So education is not something that you do at one time and think that you have done it. It is a recurring thing year round, in and out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially when you are working with I guess non-urban consumers, right? Because urban consumers, they sort of get blasted in the face, right? With this marketing and this education and all that stuff every minute of every day. But when you go out, out of the cities, out of the towns, it's a little different, because that marketing doesn't exist, and I mean, that education is actually part of that marketing, right? So it's yeah, absolutely, I completely agree with you, Karen.
Okay. On that note, guys, I mean, one of the things I just wanted to, I guess, push Karen for another answer. We're asking so much of you today, Karen. But I mean, what I guess from a Fintech Association of Malaysia point of view, like in the immediate kind of 6 to 9 months, you've obviously kind of been hit with a baseball bat quite a bit in the last 1 year, because everything has to be cashless. The MCO has all kind of gone crazy. What's your immediate goals from a Fintech Association of Malaysia standpoint? I mean, how are you guys solving the immediate problems? Is it pure education? Are you going out there speaking to the government, etc.?
Okay, so this gives me a good opportunity to just give a brief update to everyone about what Fintech Association of Malaysia is. So we've been around for 4 to 5 years. I think 2018 started with a group of friends over teh tarik, which is milk tea, the most popular drink in the world. And then thinking that, hey, the smaller guys needs to get together to get a voice, right? So that's where the association started. So at one point we had close to 200 members, and then some of them drop off due to business environment and all that. I think, and the best way to get this information is actually to visit fintechnews.my. They are the number one news media when it comes to everything fintech, and then they have a report where you can see the ecosystem. So within fintech, there are so many verticals. You have the payments, and then soon there'll be digital banking, and then you have the Sharia fintech. You have alternative funding, robo advisory, and then insurtech. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, right? So many verticals. So last year the association was caught off guard as well, and then we didn't. We had a plan to do things, but it was all physical. So this year we decided to have the committee co-chair each vertical to drive adoption, drive conversation. So the tagline for the association is connect, collaborate, and catalyze. Okay, when it comes to connection, what the fintech members and smaller startups needs is networking, opportunities for partnership, because it's pretty daunting, and you don't really know which door to knock if you want to offer your services to the incumbents, for example, right? So that's where we step in and create events. So for the last 2 months, we have done two. One is the roundtable for the payments industry, and another one is the IntraTech. And there will be one on alternative funding coming soon, digital assets and blockchain, And then we are also working with Singapore Fintech Association to create channels for the two countries to talk to each other and to help out. Because, I mean, a lot of the fintech companies or investment usually pass Malaysia and they always end up in Singapore, right? I don't know why, because the investment that you put in Malaysia will give you triple the returns because we are 1/3 cheaper. And most of us speak English. And then we have very good tech talent here, right? But what Singapore is lacking is the population, right? There's only like maximum 6 million, right? So there is a need for them to come into the to our soil. And then we are also trying to get the same program going with Indonesia and then with Thailand, because within the Southeast Asia countries, the associations talks to each other. Yeah, so that is the program that is going forward. I think that's one thing the association can do, is to create more conversations and then market access. Yeah.
Right. I think it's a really, really good point. I mean, one of the reasons we set up Beyond Payments, right, as an event and pretty much as a concept, was to remove this idea that fintechs always need to compete with each other, right? Yes. And there needs to be a blocking of heads with each other, when we've noticed that our best business and our best work actually comes when we collaborate, when we're doing partnerships with others. So, for those of you listening, Beyond Payments is actually an event to bring everyone together under that banner, where we can help you. It'll be great. Where you guys can help us, it'll be great. And I'm sure there'll be some kind of symbiosis there. So I think that's a really, really good point. I just have one more question, Joel, just for Karen before I get. You mentioned Singapore and Thailand and Indonesia. I mean, how regulated do you find the space at the moment in Malaysia? I mean, like we've seen when we're actively doing business that there's some gaps here and there, because obviously the products were evolving at a pretty rapid rate. In Singapore, they seem to have a bit more of a hold on it under the MAS banner. So how's the regulated space in Malaysia? Do you find that it's getting better, or it's still a bit opaque? Or
I wouldn't call it opaque, and I'm very supportive and pro regulators, not plugging here. And I believe that the ultimate focus is to protect the consumers' interests. And it is the same with every country, right? So the few discussions that we had when, let's say we had one with Indonesia and Singapore, I think end of last year, that was organized by Matrade and Enterprise Singapore. One of the items was to see how we can harmonize the the regulations needs in all these countries, because compliance cost is very high. And if you were to be operating in 3 different countries, it can take quite a bit of challenge when it comes to monetary support. But you have to give respect to the respective countries and the reasons why they're doing what they're doing. When it comes to Malaysian regulators, they are very forward thinking with the things that we see them, let's say, re-looking at the e-money framework, and then trying to follow the trend. And then one thing that the Fintech Association does quite well with the Central Bank of Malaysia is to organize the regulatory meetup, where every quarter, depending on the team, because we cannot cover everything under Fintech in one sitting, is to have the regulators' representatives in the meeting, and then the members can ask the questions, clear whatever that they need to clear up. Yeah. So I think regulators understand that, and then there'll be more coming in that sense. And I'm going to use this opportunity to also talk about how Bank Negara, or the Central Bank of Malaysia, is going to organize My Fintech Week in January 2022. My God, this COVID thingy has made us lost track of our time, isn't it? It's like 18 months is gone. Yes. Do you realize that 2021, that's it. We only have 4 months left, and that's it. 1 year is gone.
Yeah, that hit me a couple of days ago.
Yes. Yeah. So My Fintech Week is going to happen end of January next year. Yeah. So that will be a good one, because then the Fintech Association will have an opportunity to host a Fintech Summit as well. Yeah. And you guys going to be in? Yeah.
Very nice. Definitely. Definitely. You can count on it.
Yes. Nice.
So, Karen, just one last thing, I think, before we wrap up today. With the growing number of Gen Zs, right, who are now joining the workforce, they've got access to disposable income, and obviously they want to spend, they want to save. Where do you see fintech products and services, or even incumbent financial services? Where do you see it? Where do you see these things sort of adapting to this new wave of consumers, right? Because Gen Z, the way they think, the way they spend, the way they save, all that stuff is very different from even millennials, right? And definitely for older generations as well, right? So how do you see them adapting to this new wave of consumers? I'm very interested in that, in that, right?
Okay, let me ask you a question, Joel. How old is the Gen Z now if they are at their oldest age?
I would say, if my math is correct, I'd say about 20, 25.
25.
25, yeah.
Okay, all right. I didn't know that. Because 25. Okay. Whew, that makes me feel really old.
Oh, yeah, you and me both.
Okay, so from this perspective, right, I love what Razer does, where they go out and talk about how they are building Razer FinTech for the youth and millennial. So the oldest millennial now is probably like 44, 45, right? But, but if you were to start from Gen Z, which is, I think, is the perfect age to start, is to relook at how they view financial services. I'll take my son, for example, right? He'll rather see a dentist than to see a banker. Okay. And that is how bad it is, that how he see financial services are. And they also have this distaste about using credit card, because so the Gen Z and the new age, right, they will spend money if the company says that the money or the revenue that we earn, half of it is going to go and save the corals at Maldives. Your soul, they will go for that, right? So that is when how then do you create products to be socially responsible, I think is the right word, right? And then they like and they understand the importance of saving the planet, kind of thing. Okay, so if you look at the incumbents, do you remember how they will push you to sign up for a credit card? And then they'll say you will get a free gift if you sign up and you get approved. And what did they give you? They give you a luggage bag.
Mm.
That is not going to work with the Gen Z, right? Right, it would be different than if you say that, I will give you the latest Apple headphone that Rish has on, right? And boom, you will see all your applicants comes in. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, it is looking at things from their worldview rather than our worldview, thinking that if it works for us, it works for them. So it is not the case. And then one thing I see that is really good is how insurtech companies is looking at the gig economy. Because of what is happening, the savior actually is the riders, the delivery guys, right? So insurtech and then the ability to be insured and pay on a daily basis is a game changer for their health. So again, back to our first question is, what is fintech to me? It is actually health.
Right. No, I think that's a really good way to put it, and I think that's a really good note to end this excellent conversation on. Rish, did you have anything else for Karen?
No, I think I exhausted Karen with all my questions. We're definitely going to try and get Karen back for round 2 and round 3 for more things that we want to discuss with her. Thanks a lot, Karen. We appreciate it. We know you're really, really busy.
Thank you.
I think it's been really insightful. I've learned a lot of things today as well.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for joining us. This is our first live stream, so I think I'm supposed to say something like, like and subscribe to us on YouTube, and of course follow us on all our other social media channels, right? Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Take care.